ahead and get started. So let's get to why we're all here today. Today's topic is the Learning Center, and we'll be covering tutoring and academic resources here at the beach and how to support your students' learning in higher education with Jennifer Lucra.
Hello.
So before we start our session with Jennifer, we're going to move over to Zoom Foundations. So just so that you all know, all of our sessions are being recorded and will be placed in the Beach Family Portal within a week as we make it ADA accessible. And to protect your privacy, we are updating your profile name to just be your first name. And all of your cameras will remain off as well. We ask that you please hold all questions until the end of our brief FAQ presentation in case your questions are already covered in Jennifer's presentation. And questions will be answered in the order that they are received. Now, if you have any problems with your audio, we will also have live transcripts available. So please run your mouse towards the bottom of your screen and you'll see that toolbar right there. And you'll see various features on that toolbar and buttons. And so to turn on those live transcripts, simply click on the button that says Live Transcripts. Now, you may be wondering how you'll be able to ask questions. Staying on that same toolbar, you'll see other features like raised hand, chat, and Q&A. The chat has been disabled, so please ask all your questions in the Q&A button. When you click on that button, a box should pop up asking you to submit your question. The great thing about asking a question here is that you are able to send your question in anonymously, as well as by clicking on the button in the corner that asks if you want to send the question anonymously or not. Now let's practice using that function now. Please type hello or some welcome message in the Q&A function. Cool. Just to get some practice with that, go ahead. Now, wonderful. And now I haven't forgot all about you in Facebook world. We see you out there and we are thankful that you are able to join us as well. You will ask your questions in the comment section and someone from our team will relay it over to us. And as a last reminder, everybody, before we begin the FAQ presentation, please remember that we are bound by federal FERPA laws, so we cannot give detailed answers concerning your students, but we can definitely give you a more generalized answer. For more information, please review the FERPA topic in the Beach Family Portal. All right. And without further ado, let's introduce today's speakers. Today, we have the opportunity to hear from Jennifer Lucra from the Learning Center. And with that, Jennifer, the floor is yours.
All right. Hi, everyone. Welcome. I'm glad to see you here. I am Jennifer Luarca. I'm an academic coach at the Learning Center. So today I'm going to cover information about the center, how to support your student as a college level learner. And we are also going to welcome in just a little bit, Jordan, who's one of our peer academic coaches, to give that student perspective and to answer some questions from the student angle today. And forgive the background noise if you hear it. I am in the center and there's a lot of tutoring and things going on. So apologies for that. As I said, I am the academic coaching coordinator. I have my master's in linguistics, language and culture from this campus. So I've worked here for quite some time as a student and now as a professional staff member. I've worked in my role for 15 years. Here at Long Beach State in the Learning Center, and I am a parent also of a 7th grader, so I don't have that college parenting experience yet, but I'll get there eventually. And let's look at the next slide. So as I said, we're going to talk about how to support your student as a college level learner. I'm going to give you some background information on the academic coaching program and how that might help your student. And then we'll have Jordan join us and share a little bit of her experience as a student, and also answer any questions that you may have. All right, so here we go, jumping in. So I'm going to cover a lot of keys for success for your student. And this is information that we give students. We're just trying to shift it into that perspective of what you as a parent or guardian can do to support your student. So first and foremost, we really want to emphasize the idea of organization as it comes to time, but also as it comes to space. Organization is a really strong key to supporting your student and for their ability to manage all of the courses, if they're working, personal lives, right? We need to have that organization under our belt. So if your student or your son or daughter is not using a planner already, and they're mentioning some challenges kind of keeping track of all that they have going on, encourage them to use a planner. Planners are going to be where we really land in time management and we're able to see a monthly view, what due dates they have coming up, and then also thinking about, study schedules and how to set a routine that keeps them kind of on top of course content. Similarly, we want to have a space somewhere for the student to study, a regular space they can go that's distractions free, where they can really have all their academic content and they can know that they can go there to study on a regular basis. So while we in the coaching program work with students on setting a regular study schedule, we also talk with them about where they're going to be doing that studying. Now they can definitely study on campus. There's a lot of spaces, but we want to talk about that with them. And that's a conversation you could have with them too, is where do you like to study on campus? What works for you, what doesn't? And also, where do you like to study when you're home? What works for you and what doesn't? Okay, different people like different things in their study spaces. Next slide. So also, when we're thinking about, okay, now they have a study schedule, they have a space to study. So what does studying look like at the college level? It looks a lot like what studying looked like in K through 12, right? It's just that the content has kind of gone up several levels. So their responsibilities of how much they need to know and the depth and also the speed at which content is covered significantly increases. But the way your person learns doesn't change when they jump into college. A lot of the strategies that they used to study in their regular learning experiences prior to college are what's going to work for them in college too. So some things that you may have done in the past will still work. I know, for example, my daughter has spelling words every week. And so we practice spelling words while we take a walk with the dogs, right? That is something I also do with college students here, is if they need to study and they're feeling a little stressed, we take a walk and talk and they study and I ask them questions. So same kind of study supports will work. It's just a matter of, plugging them in and showing interest in asking questions about what they're learning. So when it comes to actual studying, say they have an exam coming up, allow them the time and space to teach you. So they may want to explain something to you. They may want to try talking about a concept in their own words. So if you can allow them to do that, that's going to be really helpful for them. Repetition is key to getting information into the long-term memory center. So the more they can discuss concepts and the more, even in different locations, different times, they can review things, the better it is in terms of getting it into their long-term memory system. If something's not making sense to you when they're explaining, ask them to explain it in a different way. These are strategies we talk with our students about all the time, of being able to speak about concepts at different levels. So speak as if you're talking to a child, speak as if you're talking to an expert, right? They should be able to go all the way between those levels while they're learning and while they're practicing for exams, because that shows a true understanding of concepts. Make sure that, as we said earlier, giving them the time and space to have alone to study, that's really important. That's kind of a pillar of supporting their success. So we encourage students outside of class that they sit down and study at least 2 hours twice a week for a course that's just kind of mid-level. They're not too worried, not too stressed, but they do need to keep kind of maintenance with that course. So we suggest maybe if they have a class Monday, Wednesday, they set up study times Tuesday, Thursday, right, for 2 hours to review content. So if your person is interested in exploring that or talking through some time management with you, encouraging them to see content every day is a really helpful tool in getting information into long-term memory. And then also managing with your person the household expectations. So asking them how they can contribute if that's needed at home, the ways that you can support them, and staying curious and open to suggestions that they might have in terms of how they can be best supported. For example, you may have a routine set, but knowing when high stress times are could be really helpful. And we'll look at those in just a few minutes. I'll have the kind of really heavy exam periods on the slide for you to see. Oh, Jordan's joining us right now. Okay, another way to support them, as I said, is staying curious and open to suggestions. Also being encouraging them to ask for help when needed. There are so many tutoring resources on the campus. Pretty much every college on campus has a tutoring center. And then we have our tutoring center as well, which is more general support for the campus. So encouraging them to Google whatever you need at CSULB in terms of tutoring, and it'll pop up those pages and information about where to get tutoring. Going to office hours. So if they're connected with a faculty member, they're already taking a huge step towards success. So encouraging them if they have a question about an assignment or just a concept's not working for them, or they're just unsure, encourage them to check in with their faculty. Our faculty have to give time set aside each week for each class that they teach. And they also will answer email, and they can make themselves available at other times if needed. As I said earlier, offer to be a study partner for them. You don't have to know the content to be a helpful study buddy. And this is where our coaches really come in handy. We work with students all the way from freshmen to our doctoral level students in physical therapy or nursing or ed or engineering. And we definitely don't have the backgrounds in those subject matters, but our ability to ask open-ended questions and kind of dig deeper and give them opportunities to practice explaining and thinking through concepts in new ways is what really helps them. So you can do the same thing at home, just by asking a lot of WH questions. So why is that? Give me an example of that. Or even the H question, how? How does this content or how does this subject relate to what you told me about last week? Is there a relationship there? Is there not? So asking these probing questions really helps your learner dig deeper and start to not just memorize, but actually apply their knowledge, which is what they're having to do most of the time during their exams. All right. And so a big challenge we've seen with students as we've returned to, everybody says a new normal. It's just new. That nothing's normal about the way things happen anymore, unfortunately. But we do have students that are straddling both learning spaces, online and in class. And while we as staff and faculty anticipated challenges with the online learning environment, our students seem to be doing pretty well there. They're thriving in that space. Where their challenges seem to lie now are being back in the classroom, because it's a different testing experience, a different interaction with fellow classmates and faculty. So just be aware as you talk with your student about, how things are going, that you may hear that they're frustrated or they're unsure in different learning spaces, and that should be validated. That is the one thing that is normal, is the frustration and the adjustments that we're having to make. So keep in mind, learning has really changed through these COVID years. Expectations of faculty have changed. What students are doing, even if they're in an in-person class, they are doing a lot of online work. So you may see your student at home studying and might look like they're on their computer and they're not really doing what you know to be studying. Most likely they're in their courses, on their course web pages, doing assignments. Everything is done online, even if they're learning in person. So keep that at the top of your mind. Most students will have to do what we're calling flipped learning, where they have to do some reading or video or activities online before they get to the classroom. So again, you're going to see them on screens a lot, and this is where they need to be for most of the learning that's taking place on campus. Also keep in mind that all of our tutoring and support services, from, like I said, tutoring centers to our counseling services, we have both online and in-person service available. So if your person is unable to get to campus but still needs help, encourage them strongly to try to find that Zoom link, try to hop into tutoring session. For our center specifically at the Learning Center, we have drop-in tutoring. Students don't need appointments. They can just walk in or hop in on Zoom Monday through Thursday, 1 to 5 for different subjects. So again, if they just know to Google what they need at CSULB, most likely they'll see in-person options and online options available. And again, I already said this, but students might be really tired, especially right now. We're hitting the 8-week mark. So we're halfway through the semester. All the newness is worn off, and now we're really in like the meat of the semester, and it's hard. It's hard to stay motivated. They're going to be tired, frustrated, maybe confused. They maybe kind of hit that fatigue of flipping back and forth between online and in person, and where I know sometimes as guardians or parents, we want to say, oh, you've done this before, you're fine. You learned in a classroom in high school, you're okay. We want to resist the urge to do that. It is a different experience now. And so just saying, sounds really frustrating. How can I help is probably what your person is wanting to hear. Okay. And again, encouraging them to go to office hours, tutoring, academic coaching, anything rather than trying to teach themselves, which a lot of students are inclined to do, is just to YouTube or Google it and figure it out themselves. Please encourage them to come find the resource on campus, because it really cuts out a lot of that, self-learning time, and it maximizes their connection with the campus, which we know contributes to student success. Okay, and so kind of along the same theme as the last slide, just being a student right now, especially having gone through COVID and all the adjustments that are being made, it can be really tiring. So as I said, we're approaching week 8. We're feeling the fatigue on campus for sure. So just know learning can be really exhausting. If we're doing some deep learning, we're thinking actively about content, we're really trying our best, we're going to be tired, and we're going to need rest, and we're going to need breaks, and we're going to need time off. So giving students the chance to be emotional about their learning, to have breaks, that's all really good and really important for just their processing and the learning experience. Asking students how they are and really just leaving it at that. How's it going? Tell me about school. That's often more than enough. And a lot of times in our coaching sessions, we sit and just listen to how they're doing, and they just need that vent space. So sometimes that's going to be the most helpful thing you can do. Asking how you can help and commit to that. So if it's getting lunch, I cannot tell you how many students I see upper division, so juniors, seniors, master's students who don't eat lunch and don't go to sleep and don't drink water. And these are basic core things that help them be successful as a human, let alone a student learner. Those are sometimes the biggest key to success is we set a bedtime and we plan a meal to eat. So if you're able to, I know often I do it with my daughter too, is you're old enough to pack your own lunch. I want you to pack your own lunch. But sometimes she forgets, and I know just her life is going to be easier if I have the time. I'm packing my lunch if I can pack hers too, So if that's something you're able to do, I know that would be very helpful to your learners as well. Talking to them ahead of time about family commitments, especially in fall semester when we have so many holidays, is what can you be at, what can't you be at, and being flexible in regards to that planning around family time. And then just, thoughtful, kind words. This is where I think people they're maturing, they're growing into, adults, and any adult likes a nice little message every once in a while, right? And then keep in mind always that we want to foster that independence. Even in most of our programs on campus too, we're really trying to not do it for students, but help them learn how to do it for themselves. So giving them opportunities to be independent, encouraging them to utilize resources, but letting them try it out on their own. Giving them space when they come home so they can process the day. The campus is very, very busy. There are a lot of people here, long lines for food, traffic. It's a lot. So giving them time to kind of decompress if they are coming home before you start asking a bunch of questions can be helpful. And then keep in mind too that learning and growth require making mistakes. So they may get a bad grade on a test, and that doesn't mean that they didn't try. A lot of times, especially for our first assessments on campus, students try their best, but we don't know what the professor wants until we take that first exam. So being able to listen and not place judgment on their efforts especially if we're talking about first assessments, is really important because sometimes we have to take that test to see if we're on the right track or not. Okay. And then if they're not doing as well as they'd like, encouraging them to utilize resources. And let's see, as promised, our busy times for fall this semester. So we are right in the middle of midterms. We're in week 7, heading into week 8. So next week is the exact middle, or I guess this weekend is the exact middle of the semester. But midterms will begin early and they kind of spill over a little later. So this zone right through the middle of October is going to be a high stress time. For some students, it's the first assessment that they've had this semester. So just know that and, be supportive if possible. And then the last 3 weeks of the semester. So coming out of our Thanksgiving break, we have that week off. Then students have 3 weeks until finals. And that turnaround is so quick. And within those 3 weeks, they're going to have papers, projects, a lot of big point items coming at them, maybe an exam or two, and then turning right around and having finals week. So that portion can be very chaotic. Encouraging your people to connect with someone like a coach, to plan that out ahead of time is great. And that will really help them manage some of the stress around that period. But regardless, just knowing that that's going to be a really busy time for them is sometimes more than enough to give them the support that they need. And then we have finals week starting December 12th through the 17th. So Monday through Saturday. Keep in mind, this week looks different than all the other weeks that they've had. We don't run a regular class schedule that week. Instead, each class gets 2 hours of time for their exam, and that's based on a schedule that you can actually find if you Google final exam week schedule at Cal State Long Beach. You'll see, usually if it's a Monday, Wednesday, 8 o'clock class, then the final will begin on one of those days, and it may begin at 9 or it may begin at 8. And go till 10, or, there's a lot of different structures to that week. So just be aware and check in with your person if you have plans or are thinking about that week at all, heading into December, which again is really busy time with holidays. Just know that their week's going to look different. If they're working, encourage them to check that out with their employer and ask for some flexibility there. And the weekend prior is probably going to be busy for them with studying, because that week they usually have exams in every single class, which isn't something they experience often prior to that week, because usually exams are spread out a little on different days and times, but they may end up with 3 exams in one day that week. So the schedule looks different. And so finally, I'm going to talk about our program, and then we're going to hand it over to Jordan to share a little bit about her experience as a student and what's helpful for her. But as I said, our program is academic coaching. Students can make free one-on-one appointments with a coach. We have staff coaches and peer coaches available. And our program is really based on academic skill development. So we're not tied directly to a course or course content. We're more looking at life skills, soft skills is what we call them, related to success in academia. And often these skills not only help the student in school, but they can help them in their life as well. Okay. And I think I have a list of them on the next slide. Yeah. So some of the learning skills we work with students on are time management. We're really focused there on creating balance with the student. Then we can talk about memory and online learning, but also just memory improvement in general. Exam preparation, if students are struggling with a specific style of exam, we can help. Test taking strategies, there it's a little different than prep, right? Exam prep's going to look at study tools and how to prepare for the exam. Test taking is going to focus a little more on like time management during the test, what to do if you blank out, how to kind of move through an exam efficiently. With writing, we can help students with idea organization, time management, and editing. And we work with a lot of master's students just on long-term planning, or our PhD students on that as well. Then we can help with note-taking, different styles of notes, what to do with your notes, which is the more important question. It's not necessarily what you write down, but what you do with what you write down after class, that's most important. And then finally, stress and anxiety management. We work also very closely with counseling and psychological services. We are not therapists, but we have a direct link to them. So we will focus on stress and anxiety management as it relates to learning and test taking. And then we refer out if we think that the student needs a little bit more support. And just to give a little more background, aside from academic coaching, in our office, we have ESL language and writing program, which helps students. It's not just for students who speak English as a second language. It's for all students who may need a little help with literacy development, reading, writing, listening skills. Okay. Then we have our content tutoring, which is tutoring in the subjects. So our more traditional thought about what tutoring is, it's going to be for math or humanities or bio, right? Those challenging kind of GE courses. And we have two different types of tutoring when it comes to content. We have drop-in, which is a set amount of hours. As I said earlier, Monday through Thursday, 1 to 5, students can walk in or they can hop online and get help. They don't need an appointment. Then we have one-on-one where students can, when they go onto their single sign-on, which is their hub for everything they need as a student, they can go to Beach Connect and they can schedule free one-on-one appointments with a tutor or with a coach through Beach Connect. And then the last program we run out of our center is supplemental instruction. This is a credit, it's a 1-unit credit, no credit course that students can add when they're doing their schedule each semester. It's not available for all classes. It's only available to the ones that are indicated on the schedule of classes. But what happens with this course is we hire a student who did well in the course. We train them how to work with learning and material, and that student goes to class with the students and then leads a kind of study session right after class. So it's a really nice way to integrate some study and have that accountability of having to actually go to a class to study a little bit each week. And I think that might be it. So I'm going to go ahead and introduce Jordan, who's one of our academic peer coaches. And Jordan, if you want to just start out by sharing a little bit about yourself and as a student, what helps you in terms of support, especially from, parents or guardians or those that aren't necessarily here. And then if you have questions, feel free to do what Cameron said. I forget what put it in the chat or in the message board, and she'll read those out once Jordan's done. So I'll pass it to Jordan.
So, hi everyone. I'm Jordan. I'm a political science major and a dance minor, and I'm a peer academic coach here at the Learning Center. So yeah, as a student, I think this was touched on already, but one of the things I like most is when my parents understand and give me the space to study, like by myself in my room for maybe an hour or so, because I do have students who come to me for coaching and they have told me like, oh, my parents, like sometimes they don't really understand or they don't let me just go in my room by myself for like an hour to study, and that makes it difficult. And I think that's something that I would recommend to parents is like, obviously, you have the ultimate authority and say, but if you can understand and let your student have time alone, like in their room, just for like an hour or so to study, that would be really helpful, especially right now. It is midterm season. And I had to say that to my parents actually last night, like they wanted to spend some time and watch a movie. And I had to say, no, sorry, like I need to study by myself for like an hour. Is that all right? And them understanding that was really helpful. So yeah, like telling students ahead of time, like, oh, we have to go to this or that. And like letting them know their schedule ahead of time is really helpful, because when it comes to midterms and finals, I definitely like need that space alone to study in my room. I try to do it all at school, but sometimes that doesn't happen. And it's really helpful to be at home, in the comfort of your own room and being able to study. So that's something I would say is good, is to let, within reason, let your student like have that space to study. And then also I really like the idea of parents like packing lunch. I know I pack my own lunch, but my mom will like pack my sister's lunch. I know it really helps her. And if you can't pack lunch, like maybe giving, a little bit of money for something that we can get on campus. Like when I have to stay late, my mom will do that. And that's always really helpful. So something else I would recommend. But yeah, that's all I can think of right now off the top of my head. I'll definitely answer questions if anyone has any.
Yeah, thank you, Jordan, for the intro. And that was some awesome advice for the parents out there. I couldn't agree more as a student as well. And just as a friendly reminder, folks watching us through Zoom, you can please submit your questions through the Q&A button on your toolbar. And for our Facebook folks, please ask your questions in the comment section. So we do have a couple of questions that already came in for you, Jordan. So the first question is, a parent asked, they're a little bit confused what the difference between a tutor and a coach is.
Okay, so the tutor is like content specific. So I'm a coach, but if someone comes to me and they want help with something like physics or chemistry, like I'm not going to really be able to help them with that. So that's where the tutoring would come in handy when they need something like very specific to a certain course. The coaching I've always seen as a little bit more holistic. So it's like if you're having trouble with managing your time, you can come see me or another one of our coaches and I'll help you like write out a schedule or help you be like more accountable to, studying. And if you're having trouble in any class, taking notes, studying for exams, I can help you with like memorization strategies or ways to better organize your notes. So I would say that's the difference is tutoring is content specific and then coaching is more like just how to be like a good student no matter what class you're in.
Cool, thank you, Jordan. And then we got another question. For the tutors, are they available for every subject?
So I'll take that one, Jordan. Good job too, Jordan. I'm so happy she's here. Tutoring, we typically will have tutoring for lower division courses. So as I said earlier, if you Googled CSULB or if you Googled the Learning Center at CSULB, it will pop up our webpage and you'll see on the left-hand side a tutoring tab. You can click there and you'll see drop-in tutoring, and that will tell you the schedules of what subjects we have and when that's available. But in general, we have math, we have English, we have what's called humanities, which covers things like communications, exam prep, or not exam prep, communications, soc, anthro, psychology, so more of those liberal arts courses. And then we do have some of the science tutorings as well. Okay.
Thank you, Jennifer. And another parent just asked a question related to students that live on housing. Pretty much they're asking, are you available to residents that live on campus, and how does that work? How does that look?
Yeah, so we're available to all students at any stage of their educational career. So even to students that have taken a leave for some reason can still come and use services at the Learning Center. For our students that live on campus, they can walk over. We're kind of in the center of the campus by the bookstore. We're across the grass from the bookstore, right in the middle of campus. So they can definitely come over and use our services, or they can hop on Zoom. We don't do programming in the housing. And part of that is like staffing issues with us and then COVID protocols and things like that. So we don't have stuff specific to housing, but we will work with all of our students.
Thank you, Jennifer. Oh, and then another parent just asked, where is the Learning Center?
So we're in the Shakiran Student Success Center, SSC. We're room 160. So it's hard, unless you're on campus, it's really hard to describe where we're at, but we're right in the middle. So if you're familiar with where the bookstore is, there's some green grass. We're right across that grass, in between, kind of sandwiched in between the science buildings. So we're in that building. The front of the building is BMAC. That's for our Students with Disabilities Center. But if you enter the building from the side, which is the main entrance from the building, we're all the way down the hall on your right on the first level. So right in the back. Again, if you Google us, you'll have all of that information there on our webpage.
Yeah, and I did drop your guys' website, the Learning
Great.
Center's website, into the chat. So if you want to go check it out. And their building, it's a newer looking building. So it does stand out on campus, and it is on upper campus. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we just got another question, and it was about that class you were referring to. So, you know, the class that students get credit for, do they teach that class while they're taking the class?
So yeah, it's a class students can sign up for. And as I said, we hire a student who's taken it before and they actually go to class with the students. So this semester, you know, classes that have SI, the SI leader is what we call our tutor person for that course. We'll go to class with the group of students and then meet with them after. So it's one unit. They meet once or twice a week in addition to meeting with the larger group of students. And these are a lot of times for our larger classes where there's big lecture halls, maybe 100 students in the class. This gives them an opportunity to kind of work on content with a smaller group of students, usually about 25 people. But it is something they have to register for. So if you want to share about this with your student and encourage them to talk to an advisor when they're registering for spring classes, that's going to happen starting like November-ish. They'll be meeting with advisors and picking up their schedules for spring. Encourage them to check out the SI if there's one available for the class they're in. And any more questions for Jordan? She's a student, so she's got to kind of go to a 2 o'clock class. So if you have any more questions for Jordan while we have her, feel free to ask and I can hang around as she leaves.
We do have some more like student-oriented questions for you, Jordan. Just what advice would you give to a freshman who's new? Like what kind of study advice would you give to help them succeed?
I would say it's really important to stay organized. I'm a big fan of like using a planner or a journal and writing everything down that I have to do. I have a daily to-do list for my classes. Like I'm going to do this class's homework today, and then I check it off when I'm done. So I would recommend that to a freshman to stay organized is write things down, have a planner, have a notebook. I think it's better to have it like actual paper and pen and not on your computer where you might get distracted by other things. But yeah, that's something I would recommend.
Thank you, Jordan. Oh, and Jordan, I don't know if you know this one, but are you hiring right now? And can any year work as a tutor at the Learning Center?
I'm not sure for hiring right now, but I do think it was sophomore and above.
Yeah, so we're kind of always taking applications, but our hiring season is usually starts about a month and a half before the semester ends. So we'll start really looking at apps in November and gearing up for spring employment. And it really just depends on our turnover. Of course, we hire a lot more in late spring for the following fall than we do, in between fall and spring. But yeah, and I think as Jordan said, usually we're looking at sophomore or higher, although we will take transfers and sometimes freshmen, but we're looking for students to have a CSULB GPA under their belt and having a 3.0 or higher. Those are kind of our standard requirements. And then beyond that, especially for tutoring, it just matters what courses they've taken and if we have interest in that service.
And then another question we got, referring to those times you were talking about, Jennifer, earlier when my student has midterms and finals, are you guys available extra hours during those times?
So midterms, we don't. We have our regular schedule for tutoring and for coaching. We're available. And then we are available for service all the way up to the Friday before finals. So I think final starts on the 12th. So we're available till the 9th. But as you've met Jordan, right? All of our employees here, aside from the staff that run the programs, are students. So we give them finals week off to take their finals as well. So I strongly encourage you to talk with your students about getting support early. That just is the best practice for learning, right? We can't cram everything in at the last minute, but also, a standard practice across campus is for student services to end about the Friday before finals begins. Okay. For coaching, I am available finals week. So a last minute thing can always happen in that they schedule through Beach Connect. But, in terms of our tutoring and peer coaches, we give them that time off to take their finals as well. And then Any other questions for Jordan? I'm going to let her kind of cut out here.
We have one last
Okay.
question for you, Jordan. What did you think was the biggest adjustment between learning in high school and learning in college?
Oh, that's a good question. I think it's a lot more freedom, like kind of a lot less like hand holding. I mean, you still have like services here, but you're going to kind of have to seek it out by yourself. I feel like a little bit more. And especially like in those big lecture classes, like the teacher might not even really know you like your high school teachers did. So you're going to have to be a little bit more self-sufficient. Like I said, that's why I use like a planner and all those kind of things. So I'm keeping myself on track because I'm not going to have that teacher like checking in on me and knowing me personally all the time because classes are a lot bigger and you are expected to be more mature.
Totally agree. Thank you, Jordan.
Thanks, Jordan. You can head to class. Thanks for being here.
Thank you so much, Jordan.
Yeah, I want to piggyback off what Jordan said and also mention that in high school, your students saw the content every day. They went to class Monday through Friday, and even though it was less time sometimes, because lectures here might be 3 or 4 hours, they saw it every day. And we know from a learning perspective, the way the brain stores information is through that repetition and that consistency. So if a student comes from that experience where they didn't really have to study, they just saw the content every day and they felt really good about it. Now here they're seeing it every other day or sometimes just once a week. And if they don't build in that routine, then they sometimes don't understand or don't realize like, oh, I don't see the content enough to remember it. I'm just seeing it once a week. I close my notebook, I put it away, I do homework, and why am I not remembering all of this? Sometimes it's that consistency that's lacking. So they have to build that back in. And that's where our coaches like Jordan come in really handy as they can unpack a student's schedule with them, arrange study times, and really get them back into a pattern of regular practice.
Great. Thank you, Jennifer. Okay, so we just had another question. How far in advance should they schedule an appointment, specifically with your guys' tutors?
So for drop-in, they don't need an appointment at all. They can just come in. I encourage students to use it because sometimes there's nobody in drop-in, so they may get that one-on-one attention there. They can stay as long as they like as well, which is nice. They can do homework and study for 4 hours if they want. For coaching, the system requires them to book 24 hours in advance. So they just have to book a day before. I would say, obviously, our services are busier, and a parent kind of already asked this, but we're busier when students are busier. So when it's high stress times, midterms, finals, projects that last like the middle of November to finals week tends to be really busy for us because a lot of people wait till the last minute. So if students are looking ahead and realizing like, ooh, I might need some help, it might be good for them to book now for those times, just so they know they have it. If they don't need it, they can cancel, but at least they've booked those appointments in. But otherwise, drop-in is available anytime and they can just walk in and utilize it as much as they'd like.
So about the walk-ins, can they just come in to like for a place to study, like without necessarily having to like meet with somebody?
No, so that's the one thing we can't do in our office. We're just not big enough. Our building, our office isn't big enough to offer that. But they can come in if they're wondering where to go. Our building in and of itself that we're in has several study locations. So up towards the front of the building, they have a lot of study stalls. Downstairs, they have private study spaces, and upstairs, we have kind of a big open conference room that they can use. But our coaches are also really well versed in where to study on campus. So that's if they want to book an appointment to explore those options, our coaches can walk them through where to go and what's available and if they need a reservation or not for those spaces. But I would encourage students, even so the exception to that is really like, say they're in Calc 1 and they need to do calculus homework. I would encourage them to come in to drop in just to do their homework. They don't necessarily need to ask for questions, but that way, if they have a question, they can ask. And then it's kind of a study space they can use as long as it's under the subject that they need.
Thank you, Jennifer. And A parent was kind of confused, like whether the Writing Resource Center is a part of the Learning Center.
Good question. No, it's different. It's upstairs in the same building. The University Writing Center is a different center for writing, but our center also offers writing support. It's more through the lens of language acquisition. So more for our maybe students that don't speak English or aren't as strong in their grammar. But we can help with writing too. And that's one thing that we see year after year, semester after semester, is some classes students have to see a writing tutor for an assignment. They have to get it signed off. And students wait till the last minute and the writing center books up and they can't get in there because the writing center is kind of a small center. So those students can also come in and see our tutors for writing as well. We're another resource, another option. We have drop-in and we have that ESL one-on-one appointments.
Thank you.
Mhm.
All right, we have time for a few more questions here. Another question we just got is a parent feels like their student needs a little bit more specialized attention. What is the maximum amount of times they can visit the Learning Center? And if they kind of need more intensive tutoring, where can they look for that at?
So they can come in every day for a drop-in tutoring, stay the full 5 hours if they want, that's fine. There's no limit. If they want to book one-on-ones with our tutors, they can do that through Beach Connect, the same way they would schedule with an academic coach and the same way they schedule with advisors. And all the information's on our webpage. So I think with tutoring and coaching, they can meet twice a week with someone. I think that's the limit in the system. So there's that option. I'd say the other option is to go to office hours with your faculty member and check out if there's other tutoring centers on campus. So for example, we can help with communications courses here, but there's also the communications tutoring center that they can also use and explore. And again, our academic coaches can help students figure out where all the tutoring centers are on campus and when they want to use those. So we can help students navigate that because it can get kind of tricky trying to find all these little niche tutoring centers across the campus.
All right, everybody. Okay, we're getting near the end of our Q&A portion right now, so we'll allow one more question. So a parent asked, do students tend to struggle more when it comes to upper division classes? So in their final 2 years of undergrad, basically.
I mean, each student is different and unique. So it's hard to speak generally about the experience, but I find that the most challenging parts of a student's academic career are going to be their first semester freshman year because of the adjustments there, and then their first semester of upper division coursework in their major. So obviously the first semester as a freshman, as Jordan said, it's just kind of gaining your footing, figuring out how to take what happened for you in high school and do it yourself here, right? Get in those routines, kind of figure out who you are as a learner without being told what to do. And then when they jump into upper division coursework, the challenge is a lot of times the expectation moves from just understanding a concept to being able to use it in the field. So what we call applied learning or application practice, that's when that first hits. And also for lower division coursework, students are learning a little bit about a lot of stuff. So in poli-sci, you're covering year spans, right? Or in soc, you're covering very general ideas about what sociology is. But if you're a soc major in upper division, you're covering a lot less and really deep. So the depth just significantly increases. So instead of having to know the term, now you've got to know all of the integration of that concept and how it's applied and used and what the research is. So that's another kind of step or level of learning that students have to figure out. So it's those transitions to the campus first as a freshman and then into their major, really digging in with both hands to the content that tends to be the most challenging parts.
Very true. I can agree as a student myself. But thank you so much, Jennifer, and thank you so much for joining us today. That was incredibly helpful information. And just as a reminder, parents, any questions that we may have not got to today will be saved and sent out in a week once we are able to answer them here at our office. And we will also be posting them in our Beach Family portal. So if you're not in our Beach Family portal, go ahead and join. On the screen right now, you are able to see some of the benefits of joining our portal. It's a really awesome resource as well. And stay connected. If you have any questions about anything related to CSULB and you don't know where to begin asking for help, start with our parent and family office right here. Our staff is here for you, and if we don't know the answer, we'll help you find it. Our contact information is on the screen, so please save it in your phones and follow us on Facebook. We also have information for the Learning Center and information to contact Jennifer as well. And finally, lastly, we want to hear from all of you. We are a learning institution, and we are continuously trying to improve our programming to offer you the best we possibly can. So I'm going to drop a link in the chat right now for evaluation for today's webinar. So if you please kindly could take out your phones one last time and put that link into your phone and answer some questions from our brief survey just to give us some quick feedback. And we really appreciate your support. And again, Jennifer, thank you so much for today. And thank you to you families. Without you, this wouldn't all be possible.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Thank you, everyone. Goodbye.
Bye.